So during the next few sections, we're going to be building our very own Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. We're going to start out with just a completely blank worksheet, and we're going to build up a monthly budget spreadsheet. We're going to start out just simple, take it step by step. We're going to do things like enter labels, like our column and our row labels. We're going to enter some numeric values in there representing our dollar amounts, our currency values, the hard-earned money that we're spending each and every month on all of our bills. We'll talk about building calculations so we can get things like totals for each month or each bill. Well, I'll talk about some other types of calculations as well. And we're going to do some formatting. We're going to make it look super awesome. But we're going to start from complete scratch. So our first step, we've got to open up a new Excel document, and we're going to start to put some labels or headers into our spreadsheet. So here we go. So I'm back into the Excel interface, and I'm looking at the new section of the Backstage view or of the File tab. So now inside of here, I'm going to go ahead and grab Blank Workbook, and I'll give that a double click. All right, here we are. We've done this once before. We've opened up a new blank Excel document, and here we are. Now, I'm on Office 365. I subscribe to the monthly subscription through Microsoft to get access to the Office applications, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and so on. Now, occasionally, and I just really want to give you a heads up, if you're also a part of the Office 365 subscription, whether you get that through a personal edition or something through work, Microsoft likes to push out updates. Now, as of this recording, it is February of 2019. This is our current release of Microsoft Excel. Now, when you open it up, your interface might look a little bit different because Microsoft pushes out updates. So nothing big. I've been teaching Excel for years now, and I teach it virtually exactly the same way. I've been teaching ever since the early editions of Microsoft Excel. 2000, back in 95. Excel's been Excel for years. Of course, Microsoft has introduced new features and whatnot, and we'll get into those new features. And I want to talk about all the bells and whistles that Microsoft adds to additional versions, but it's still underlying, it's still Excel. Now, once again, if you are on the Office 365, you may occasionally, when you first launch up Excel, you may get a yellow bar at the top of your screen saying, hey, Microsoft's got some updates ready for you. Do you want to go ahead and update? And they'll give you a button right there to build update. Okay, I'm not getting it right now, and we may see it at some point within this course as I close and I reopen Excel, and Microsoft may be pushing out updates, but just keep an eye on that inside of your own interface. Updates are great. Microsoft is fixing things, creating new features for you. It's huge. So, all right, here we are. So typically we start out inside of cell A1 within our new worksheet. And there's at A1, what better place to put a title? So I'm going to go ahead and put a title here. I'll call this monthly budget. This is going to be our monthly budget spreadsheet. And again, I'm just inside of column A, row 1, type that value in. I'm going to hit my enter key on my keyboard. That'll hop me out of that cell. All right, so there's my title. We'll worry about making that fancy looking colors and bold and all that stuff. We'll do that later on. For now, we're just going to put some labels in there and start to build the basic structure of our spreadsheet. So I'm going to drop down into cell A3, and I'm going to create a column here that's going to act as the labels for all of the bills that I have for each of the months. So first thing I'm going to put in here is just a nice header. We'll just call it bills. I'm going to hit my enter key to drop down a cell again. And now I'm going to create a list, nice little column here of various bills that I have for each month. Now, you can copy me exactly if you like to. Hopefully you're following along with me, right? You can copy the exact same stuff if you like. But I want to encourage you. One of the best ways to learn something new is not only participate in a course like this and to learn, but to put it to practice. So the sooner that you can start to put this into your own real world scenarios, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so think about what bills do you have, right? So here, I'm just going to make some stuff up. I'm going to say we got rent, we got phone, we got credit cards, credit, make sure I spell that right, credit cards. Hit my enter key, drop down again. Let's say we got food, and let's do one more here. I'm going to say candy. Gotta have candy, right? Each and every month you got your bill for your candy. All right, I'm gonna hit my enter key. I'll drop down. Now that's good. I'm gonna call it good right there. Of course, I've got more inside of there. Maybe we want to put car in there. You got electricity, you got gas, you got garbage and water, you got this, that, and the other thing, right? Whatever bills you have, right? Let's go ahead and create a list there. And eventually we're gonna start to put in the values for each of the months that we're spending on these various bills. Start to make you feel kind of bad where all your money's going, right? Hopefully it's going to candy though, right? All right, down below that, again, I'm just going to stop it there. I'm going to put in a total. Eventually, we're going to have a row here, right here, that's going to give us some totals for the various months that we'll have for each of our bills. All right, so these are our row headers, our row labels. Let's go ahead and continue building the structure. I'm going to jump up into cell B3. I'm just clicking up there, and I'm going to put some labels up here for each of the months. So as of recording right now, it is February of 2019, but I'm going to go ahead and start this out at January. So I'm just going to type in Jan. If you want to type out January, feel free. You can do that as well. I have a couple of Achilles heels of my own as far as spelling is concerned. My spelling is horrible. My kids come home from school and ask me how to spell something. I open up Word, Microsoft Word, and I type it in there. Spell checker, right? It's awesome. So January, February, right? I can never remember how to spell those two. So I'm just going to abbreviate. I'll say Jan. I'm going to hit my tab key just to hop over to the right one cell. I'll type in Feb, tab, and I'll type in March. I'm going to hit tab key one more time. I'm going to stop right there for the months and keep it really simple. If you'd like, you can continue going, right? The more practice you get, the better. You can go to April, May, June, July. You can do whatever you want to inside of there. You can start at whatever month you want. Again, up to you. But I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to put another total label. Remember, we've got this one. We got this guy down here. Let's hit my enter key to hop out of there. We got that one right there because eventually we're going to have some a row total here for each column. But then I'm going to have one here because I want to do totals for each of the bills as well. So this right here, this is kind of the basic structure of a spreadsheet. You've got row labels, in this case bills. You got column labels representing some type of date. Now, there's our basic structure, our labels, and these are just text values. So if you're not following along with me step by step right now, go ahead and pause the video, start to create the basic structure, the labels of your Excel monthly budget. So get that part done. Pause the video if you need to. Once you're done, jump back in. Our next lecture, we're going to start to talk about entering numeric values and putting some currency amounts inside of these months for these bills. So get that done. We'll jump into the next section. So our next step in creating this Excel spreadsheet is to enter some numeric values, some currency amounts for the amounts that we're spending for each bill across all the months. So in the prior video, we took a look at entering alpha values or text values, right? We got those as our labels. Now here inside of this section, in my case, from cell B4, right below January, inside rent, from B4 down to D8, I want to put my dollar amounts inside of there. Okay. So I'm going to jump up into cell B4 and I'm going to make some stuff up here. Feel free, you can copy exactly what I got. Or if you're putting your own bills in there, you're creating your own monthly budget, feel free to put your own amounts, whatever you like to do. The quicker you can put it into real world practice, the better off, right? All right, so inside of B4, I'm going to say 1,000. 1,000. I'll hit my enter key, drop me down into January for phone. And for phone, let's say it's $100. Credit cards, let's say it's $150. Food, gotta have food, right? $300. Candy, let's say candy is going to be $100 each month. All right. Now I'm going to jump up. I'm just using my arrow keys here to move me around within this spreadsheet. I'm going to jump up into C4. Now I'm back to rent, but now for the month of February. Let's say rent doesn't change, so it's now 1,000. I'm going to drop down a cell, hit my enter key. Phone, maybe this month I went over on data, So I got 125. Credit cards, pay those off a little faster. Let's say 200. Food, maybe food went down. It is a 275. Candy, $100. All right, back up. Now I'm inside of March. Okay, as of recording right now, it is February of 2019, but I'm going to fill this thing out completely, right? Just to give us some more data to work with. So let's say rent, still 1,000. 1, 2, 3. Phone went back down to 100. Credit cards back to, let's say, let's make this something different. 175. Food went to 350. Candy went up. Gotta have a candy, man. Gotta have a candy. 125. All right, that's looking pretty good. So now we've got our labels, right? All these guys right here are labels for our spreadsheet. And we've got our dollar amounts, our currency values representing the amount that we're spending for each bill for each of these months. Now, there's something I want to point out here. This is something small, but it's actually pretty big. Okay? There's a difference between the text values, these guys that we entered in, and the numeric values that we just input. Like I said, it's going to be actually something kind of small, but it can make a big impact inside of your spreadsheet and inside your work, especially when you start getting into calculations. All right, so take a look at them. Compare these labels right here with the dollar amounts, the numeric values that you just input below those headers. Do you see it? There's something different about those two. I know one's numeric and one's text, one's alpha, but there's even something else different between the two, right? Well, look at the months. The months, these are left aligned. So it deals with their formatting. By default, text values come in left aligned on the cell. You see it? Numeric values, on the other hand, come in right aligned. These are all on the right-hand side of the cell, right? Look at all those. I could draw arrows. All right, left aligned for text, right aligned for numbers. Now, why does this happen? And this happens not just in Excel, it's not specific to Excel, but this happens in lots of different applications, a majority of them, in fact. Well, it happens for a couple of reasons. One, it's cleaner. You'll see the difference between the two. I know that this is text because it's left aligned. This is numeric because it's right aligned. That's its default behavior. If we start introducing decimal places inside of our numeric values, those decimals will be nice and aligned. Let me show you. Let's say I get into B4. We got rent there for 1,000. I'm going to double click inside of that cell and I'm going to say 0.55. Our rent is $1,000, 55 cents. I don't know where that 55 cents is going to, but there it is. I'm going to hit my enter key. I'm going to drop down the phone and we'll say this is $100.25. Hit my enter key. Now, because the numbers are right aligned, that decimal is nice and clean, right? Nice line going down through our numeric values. Nice and clean. If they were left aligned, that would be all over the place. Let me just grab those two cells. I'm going to go to my Home tab. Underneath my Home tab, I've got an alignment section, and I'm going to tell them to be left aligned. And you're going to see our decimal place kind of go like this, kind of do the wave. So let me hit the left align button there. And there's our decimals, still numeric, right? But if we look at that now, that decimal is no longer straight. It's no longer clean. If I had more decimals, that thing could be doing the wave all the way down, right? Just want to look very clean. So let me undo that. I'm going to Control Z on my keyboard. Love that undo. Right there, Control Z, Z like zebra. All right, I don't want the decimal, so I'm going to keep hitting Control Z. Let's get back to just 1,000 and 100. All right, so there's one reason. Okay, it's cleaner. It distinguishes itself between that data and the data below. Looks nice and clean. Okay. Now, if you ever import data or copy paste data from some other system, whatever it is, into an Excel document, and you see your numeric values are actually left aligned, so they look like this, all over here on the left-hand side, typically you will then get a little green let's change my color here. Let's say green. You get a little green kind of triangle looking thing inside the corner of that cell. And you'll get that across all of them. Okay? If you ever see that, or if you've ever seen that, some of you maybe seen that before, that means Excel is looking at that and saying, hey, something's wrong. There's something wrong with those values. And typically, when you see your numbers left aligned, Excel is treating those values as text. They're not being treated as numbers. So what can you do? Well, if that happens to you, you can click into one of those cells. You get that little triangle in the corner. You get a little box. And when you click the box, it'll come up with some options. And one of them will be convert to numbers. And you do it right there. And it'll right align them, put them back to where they belong, and you're good to go. All right. So I just want to point that out. Again, it's something small, just a difference between how they're aligned, but it can be a much larger impact. Decimals, nice and aligned, right? We don't want that wave going through our document. And it can potentially screw up some formulas. When you're trying to do mathematical type operators, we don't want to work with text. We want to work with numbers. All right. And if it ever happens to you, it's a quick fix. You can click on the little box that shows up next to that green triangle. I don't have it on my screen right now, but maybe we'll see it at some point, and you can just convert it to number. All right. So get these in there. Really simple. Got our labels, got our numbers in there. We'll call it good. Get those in there. Then we'll jump to the next lecture, and we'll start to expand some more inside of this Excel spreadsheet. So we've talked about two different types of data that you can input into an Excel document. There's actually a few more. And I want to talk just a little bit about one of the other types of data that you're going to be inputting into an Excel spreadsheet. We've talked about alpha characters. That's our labels, right? Bills. We got our months along the top. We've talked about numeric values. All of these dollar amounts here eventually be formatted as currency that we now input into our Excel spreadsheet. Now, another type of data that you're going to be working with inside of Excel are dates. So let's talk a little bit about dates. We've got some months. I mean, that's a portion of a date, right? That's a date value, but it's not a complete date, right? Dates, they typically contain three different aspects or three different elements that make up the date. You've got the day of the month, you got the month, and you got the year. So we really got those three pieces. Now, depending on what region you live in, your dates may be formatted a little bit differently. Do you do day first? Do you do month first? What does your years look like, right? There's lots of different ways to be able to format dates, but dates typically contain those three pieces of information. Now, let's say for our months here, maybe I'm going to be using this one spreadsheet for multiple years, right? We got 2019, at least as of recording this video. Maybe you're going to go into 2019, 2020, right? Or 2021, or maybe I'm going to do a previous year with 2018 or whatever it might be, right? So I want to denote which year this month belongs to. So I'm going to go up into my January, which is B3, and I'm just going to double click into that cell. Double click, enters into that cell. I can now edit it. So I'm going to say January hyphen 2016. That's it right there. I'm going to hit my tab key, hop out of that cell. Ooh, wait a minute. Two things just happened there. Do you see that? Let's try it again. I'm going to double click into C3 because I'm going to do the same thing for February. So I'm going to say hyphen 2016. Wait a minute. It's not 16 anymore. It's 2000. Man, I'm way off. All right, this should be 19, right? 2019. I'm going to hit my enter key. There we go. What just happened there? There was two little things, right? Let's get back in and fix this one. This one should be 19. Ooh, that's weird. Double click that cell. Now I got 1/1/2016. I want to change that to 19. Hit my enter key. We got January 19. What just happened there? Let's do it for March hyphen 2019. Catching it? So we're now working with a date value. And how do we know that? Well, a couple things happened. One, they're now right aligned. they are on the right-hand side of the cell. Remember that discussion? That's supposed to happen with numeric values. Well, you know what? Inside of Excel and most applications, dates are treated as numeric values. That's just the way it goes. They are numeric. You may have text in there like Jan, Feb, Mar, but underlining, they are numbers. Right? You saw when I double-clicked inside of there, you actually get a date format. Here I've got the day, month, year. Right? I go over into February, give that one a double-click. Got the, month, day, year. I said day, month, year. So I've got month, day, year inside of there, 2019. So we've now got some date values. Okay. Underlining once again, and I can see this up above here inside of my formula bar, that we've actually got a date. It is right aligned, it is numeric, it's a date value, treats it as such, but underlining that is a date. Now, like I mentioned earlier, depending on what region you live in, your dates may be formatted differently. It's fine, however you want to format them. Now, if you do this, type in Jan-2019, hit your enter key, and it doesn't change it, I would take a look at your date settings or your date format. Now, what if I wanted to actually say 2019? Because right now it just says Jan 19. Is that January the 19th? Or is it January 2019? Right? I want that to be much clearer. So what I'm going to do here, and this is something we're going to get much more in depth into as we continue through and we start to get into the formatting section of this course, is I want to format these cells. So I'm going to highlight B3 to D3. I'm going to go to my Home tab, top of my screen, and I'm going to go into the Numbers section. All right. Underneath Number, we can currently see that it says Custom. Typically, that'll say a General. If I go to any other cell out here, we'll see General inside of that box. There it is, General. Well, here, with that selected, I'm going to go up here to the little drop down, and we've got some default formatting options for us. We do have some dates. We got short date, long date. It's not really what I want. I'm going to scroll down. We got a whole bunch of other stuff inside of there. But down at the bottom, we have an option for more number formats. I'm going to go into more number formats. Here, underneath category, I'll grab date. And here I'm going to find, let's see, I want the month and year. So do we see one like that in there? Month and year. Let's see, then that's someone. I want the abbreviated month. That one's looking pretty good, but I had it the other way around, right? And that's actually the day anyways. That's not what I want. Oh, here we go. All right, now we got March -12, but I want it to say 2019, right? Do we have one like that in there? And that's the full month. That one's got the day in there as well. I don't want the day. I don't see the one that I want inside of there, right? They got lots of variations on it, but I want it to say Jan 2019, Feb 2019, right? I want that 2000 in there as well. So we do have some defaults that we can pick from, some preset date formats. But here I'm going to go to custom. And let's see, do we have it in here? They got a bunch of default custom ones. So here's some dates. We got the month and the year. Nope, not seeing the one I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to where it says type. I'm going to wipe out what's in there. I'm just going to backspace or delete that out. And I'm going to put my own custom date format in there. So I want it to be 3-letter abbreviation month. So I'm going to do MMM. That's your month. You can even see a preview of it right there. Jan. Hyphen. YYYY. 2019. So we got 3 M's for the month. Hyphen. 4 Y's for the year. So we get the 4-digit year. I'll hit OK. And there we have it. Nice months, got it spelled out to us, January 2019, February 2019, and so on. That was a few steps that we went through. Always feel free in any of the videos. You can always rewind, you can rewatch the videos, whatever you need to do. There's a few steps that we went through there. Or you can just leave it the way that you want, or come up with another format. And if you do that, here we go. Ready for this? If you do that, if you change your format, or if you're in another region and it should be formatted differently, whatever you want to do, share it with us. Go to the Q&A section, find the discussion board. It's just called Q&A, questions and answers. I'm right there. I love answering questions. I love seeing the work that my students do. Share it with us. Take a screenshot, add it to the post. Let us know what you're doing. All right. So get this portion done. Get your dates in there. 2019, looking good. Then we'll jump into the next lecture. I'm excited. We're going to be getting into some formulas. All right, here we go. Now, before we get into creating some formulas, there's something that I want to kind of recap. We've talked about it just a little bit and even just kind of in passing, but it's a very, very important concept as far as formulas are concerned. So let's make sure that we've nailed this one down, and I'm going to make it quick because we're going to talk about it again and again, but I want to get this up front, out of the way. That way formulas will go nice and smooth for us. All right, we're going to talk about cell references. The way that you reference a value or a location within your Excel worksheet. Here we go. All right, so we've got our spreadsheet started looking pretty good. Got the basic structure, got labels, got some numeric values in there, got some dates. Looking good. Now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. If I hold down the control key on my keyboard and use the middle mouse wheel, this will allow me to scroll in. I love that one. You can also use the little scroll bar. Let me move my big fat head out of the way here. You can use the zoom or the scroll bar down here in the corner as well of your Excel interface. That will allow you to zoom. Oops, let's get that out of the way. That will allow you to zoom as well, just right there, up and down. All right, but I like using the middle mouse wheel and the control key. Very, very nice. All right, so now here, cell references. How do you reference content within an Excel document? This might be common knowledge. You may have done this many times within your Excel work. If not, this is something that's going to follow you around inside of Excel in everything you do, especially when it comes to formulas. So imagine this. Somebody sends you this document, right? We save it. Somebody saves it. They throw it into an email and they send it to you. And they tell you, hey, I want you to go take a look at some values, right? Let's go take a look at the values for X month, right? Or for X bill, or for whatever, right? You open this up. This is a pretty simple one, so it may not be that hard to find. But what if you had several months in there? They say, go look at the month of August. Gotta love August. August is a good month. Go look at August. But now you got August 2019, you got August 2020, you got August 2018, whatever. So well, it's like, well, which August am I supposed to be looking at? Well, you can write them back and say, well, which year, right? Which month, which year should I be looking at? Hopefully they get back to you. But wouldn't it be nice if they told you exactly where to look, right? When you say February, I want you to go look at February values. Okay, well, where is February? Well, February starts inside of cell C3. And I can find that right here. I clicked into February. Up here in the top left corner of my screen, I can see C3. There it is. If I click someplace else, let's say I want you to look at January's value for candy. Okay, great. Well, that's inside of cell B8. These are our cell references. Cells, they can be referenced as a standalone cell, a single cell, like we just did. C3, B8, D3, D6, whatever. They can be referenced as a range of cells. I can say, I want you to look at all the February values. Well, that goes from C4 to C8. And I'm just left clicking and dragging. Left click C4, drag down to C8. I've now selected that range of cells. Now I look at the box at the top and it still tells me just one cell, C4, because that's the active cell within that selection. But I've got that range of cells, C4 to C8. Maybe I want you to reference the entire table. Well, that goes from A3 down to D8, right? That's that range of data, that range of cells. Now, a couple little shortcuts for you. You can also reference non-contiguous or cells that are not touching. This will become very important when you get into formulas You get into charts, you get into pivot tables, you get into something that you want to reference a range of cells that do not touch, non-contiguous group of cells. So I can say, I want you to look at the headers and rent. Let's get that right there. Now I also want you to look at food. Well, food is 3 rows down from bills and rent. Well, here I can hold down the control key on my keyboard and I can select food. So now I can get a non-contiguous group of cells. Again, this is great if you want to create charts and you don't want to include all of the data. I just want the headers, the months there, and I want rent, and I want food. Okay? Don't select it all, just get the data that you need. All right, so this is, again, just really quickly, cell references. You reference cells, you reference the location of these values. Now again, very important for our next section when we get into formulas, because that's what you're going to do is you're going to reference the data by its cell reference. Get ready for it. But take a moment and spend just a little bit of time and identify where these different values are at. What cell, what column, row address are they located in? Now that we've got cell references at just kind of a high level, an introductory level, I know some of you have been using them forever. It's like, yeah. Some of us are newer into the system. Very important, a very important foundational building block that makes up our Excel experience. Make sure that that's comfortable. If you got any questions on it, again, jump into the Q&A section, ask your questions there, right? I'm right there. I love answering questions. I love seeing what everybody is learning. It's great. So now that we got cell references down, let's take a look at building basic calculations. Nothing big here. We're going to do some math. Now, for me, math was never my strong suit. You know, going through school, it was like that period of the day that I just wanted to be somewhere else, right? Doing addition, subtraction, multiplication. When I got into algebra and whatnot, then my mind just exploded. What is going on here? Well, the nice thing is, as long as we know what we want to do, I want to add some numbers. I want to do some multiplication. I want to do some division. As long as we understand what it is that we want to do and what we want our outcome to be, Excel will do the math for us. It's like a calculator on steroids. It can do so much for us. Now we're going to start out with the basic building block once again. Understanding basic formulas, basic mathematical operators performed inside of an Excel spreadsheet. And then as we continue through the course, we're going to get into more and more and more advanced topics as far as formulas, functions, and calculations are concerned. So let's start out with some basics here. All right. So I want to be able to start out with a calculation that gives me the sum, and we're going to do some addition here, some sum of January. Give me the total for January. Now give me the total for February, for March, and so on. Now here's where the prior lecture comes into play. Take a look. I'm going to jump into cell B9. That's my total for January. Now, we talked about a couple different types of data that you can input into an Excel document. You had text or alpha characters, you had numeric, you had dates. Now here's a fourth one. We can input what Excel considers formulas or calculations. Now, in order for Excel to recognize that what you're about to do or what you're performing here is a calculation, you start your calculations with a specific character. In this case, I'm going to start it with an equal sign. This is true from the most basic, like what we're about to do here, to the most advanced calculation that you can perform inside of Excel. You start them with an equal sign. All right. So I got my equal sign. Excel's now, okay, ready. Here we go. I'm going to create a calculation. So I got my equals. Now I want to be able to add up those numbers for January. Well, I could do this. I could say, okay, rent for January is 1,000. 1, 2, 3. There's my 1,000. Now, what type of math am I going to do here? Well, I want to add this up. I want to get a sum. So I'm going to say plus, what's my next one? 100 plus 150 plus 300 plus 100. All right, I'm just doing math. I've told Excel, there's my equal sign, that, hey, I'm going to do some math here. This is going to be a calculation. And I'm just taking the numbers and performing some addition on those numbers. Once I'm done, I hit my enter key, and there's my result. $1,650, $1,650 for the month of January for my various bills. What do you think? Did you get it? Equals this plus this plus this plus this. Now, some of you are thinking, well, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work, right? I mean, if I double click that cell again, 1650, double click, that opens the formula back up. I typed out each of those numbers, right? What if I made a mistake? What if I put one too many zeros, or I left a zero out, right? Now I'm at 10,650. Oops. I'll get back in there. I get rid of that zero, right? Hit my enter key. I made the correction, but it's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. What happens if these numbers here update? What if I get back here and say, oh, wait, I spent $125 on my phone bill in January. It wasn't 100. So I get in here, I change this from 100 to 125. Oops. Hit my enter key. I updated it there. But did it update there? Nope, it didn't update. Double click, it's still at the 100. So now I'd have to change this. Now it's correct. Right now I'm changing it in two different places. Well, you remember the previous discussion that we had, right, on cell references. Let's get rid of this. Let's put this back to 100. Let's get rid of this. This is crazy. I'm just going to delete that. Crazy. We could do it that way. Definitely. You just saw it, right? Equals this value plus this value plus this value. We could do that. Or, all right, back to B9. Start our formula. We're going to inform Excel that we're creating a calculation. Equals. Put our equal sign in there. Now I'm going to use the cell references. So the first one, we're in the B column, 1,000, it's in B4. So I'm going to say B4 plus B5 plus B6. Now, ever since the 2000 edition of Excel, we've got some nice color coding going on here. Very, very slick. Something small, but very helpful. Plus B7 plus B8. Now I'm just referencing cells, right? B4. Take the value of what's inside of location B4, cell address B4, and add that to B5. Then add that to B6. Once you're done, hit your enter key. There's our answer, 1650. Now, if one of them updates, we go for, oh, no, it was 125. 125 for phone for January. Hit my enter key. Keep an eye down here. Hit my enter key. And I've now updated the formula. All because I'm using cell references instead of the literal values. What do you think? Pretty slick, right? And all I'm doing is just some math here. I'm doing some addition. You can do whatever type of math. You can do your subtraction, your multiplication, your division, whatever it is, right? Now, I want you to take a moment. Take a moment. I want you to complete the rest of them. Get some practice in here, right? Jump over to C9, add that up. Jump over to D9, add up March. Then, I want you to hop up to the E column, create a formula. You start it with what character? Equals. And then we're just going to use the cell references. So in this case, it's going to be B4, which is my 1,000 rent for January, plus C4, which is for the month of February, plus D4. So now I've got my three values there for rent. I'll hit my enter key, and I'm just doing some addition, some simple math here. So try this out, complete that, get a feel for it. I'm going to take it even a step further. I know some of you are waiting for some other methods on how to complete this, because this is still pretty intensive, right? We've only got 4 or 5 records there, but what if you had hundreds or thousands of records? I definitely don't want to do it that way. No way, right? I'm not typing out each and every cell reference. Crazy, right? So we're going to see some other ways to be able to perform these calculations as well and streamline our efforts. But for now, again, we're building that foundation. We're getting each and every little step in there so that we know exactly what's going on inside of Excel. Get this done. Get your calculations in there. Add up those figures. Then we'll jump into the next lecture, and I want to take calculations even a step further. All right, here we go. All right. How's that looking for you so far? You got your calculations in there? I've got my total row there, got the total for each month, and I've got my total column in there, my total for each bill, as well as a grand total for all the bills for all the months, 5,125. Now, if you're using your own numbers, great. Just be aware of that. Don't try to compare it against mine. If you're using my exact numbers, make sure everything's looking good in there. If I got something wrong, right, let me know, right? Let me know. Jump into the Q&A section. Let me know I got one of them wrong, but I think these are looking pretty good right now. All right, so I want to take this idea of cell references and formulas a step further. We're going to do a couple things here, but the topic that we're going to get into is a difference between our two reference types, because we actually have two different types of ways or methods that we can use to reference cells inside of an Excel worksheet. We have what's called relative and absolute. So the first one, a relative reference, versus the second one is an absolute reference, or I've also heard it called a fixed reference. All right, so what's the difference? Well, let's go ahead and delete out the formulas that you just created. I'm going to delete them all except the first one, the January total. So let's delete out all that hard work you just did, right? All that work, I'm sorry. All right, but it's going to be, I'm going to show you even simpler ways to do this. But again, building these key concepts. So our first formula, if I give that one a double click, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cell references in there. B4 through B8, right? And we're just adding them up, giving us a total, a sum. Now, these reference types, these are called a relative reference. Now, what does that actually mean? What's a relative reference? Well, I'm going to hit my escape key here just to close that out. A relative reference means from this location, you're going to get cells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to get these 5 cells right here, right? Double click. It's B4, B5, B6, B7, B8. Those 5 cells from that location. Now, let's take this a step further. What if I now want to get February, right? Right here, I want to get February's total, but this time, instead of the B cells, it should sum up the C cells. Right? Well, what if I do this? What if I go to my 1675, which is my total for the B column, I copy, Control C, I copy that, I go over to the C9, and I paste it in, Control V. Look at that. Now I've got my total for February. Well, how did it do that? How did it know which cells to sum up? Well, it knew because it was a relative reference. The formula is the same. If I give it a double click, we still got the equal sign, we still got the plus signs, but the column changed. It's now C4, C5, C6, C7, C8. Before, it was the B column. So now we're just saying copy that from here to here, and now from this location, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells up, and let's add up those cells. Let's try it again. I'm going to copy this one, Control C, hop over to the empty cell for March, Control V for paste, and I'll paste that in. Now I've got my 1750 for the D column. So all we're doing here is literally just copying and pasting the formula from one location to another. It performs the same formula, but relative to its location. 5 cells up, 5 cells up, 5 cells up. What if I did this? What if I hop over here and I do 10, 10, 10. I'm just typing in some 10s. Oops. 10. And I come back here, I say copy, Control C, hop over here. I'm going to paste it in. What do you think is going to happen? Control V, paste. There's my 50. I'm just in a new location, new cell, right? But it's always 5 cells up. That's a relative reference. Or whatever direction, right? What if I did that over here? What if I go to the E column and I say equals, what is it? B4 plus C4 plus, oops, D4. Right, so now I'm in this cell, but now I'm going 3 cells to the left. And I'm going to add those up. So I hit my enter key, there's my 3000. But I'm just going to copy, hop down a cell, paste it in. There's my 350. 125 plus 125 is 250 plus 100. Oh, excuse me. 250 plus, yeah, that's right. 125, 125, 250 plus 100, 350. Just paste it in. Now it's in the 5th row as opposed to the 4th row. And I can do that again. Copy, paste, 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 paste. Relative references, huge, huge, right? You've got consistency in the layout of your document. It's always 3 rows to the left. It's always 5 rows up, whatever it is. You create one and you just copy that to its new location. 5 rows up, 3 rows to the left. Done, right? Save you so much time. And this is relative references. Let me hit my escape key. That's going to get rid of the little marquee, the marching ants. I'm going to delete these back out. All right, now remember I mentioned that there's 2 different types of references. That was relative, and that's what we got by default. But you also have what's called an absolute reference. Let's take a look at that one. So I've got my formulas back in there, got my totals back in there. I'm going to hop over to the F column, it's F3, and I'm going to type in %. There we go, hit my enter key. So now what I want to do here is I want to perform a calculation. We're going to do some division here that'll tell me what percentage each of my bills is of my grand total. I want to know what's 3,000 of 5,125. What's 350 of 5,125, and so on. All right, so now for this one, still a formula. Remember, you start all your formulas with the same character. So I'll say equals, and I'm going to say E4. This time I'm actually just going to click on E4. Look at that, it puts it in there for me. So equals E4, divide, and I'm going to use the backslash as the division character, and then I'm going to go grab E9. So I'm taking E4, and I'm going to divide that with E9. Backslash, forward slash. I said backslash, didn't I? So looking at your number pad, right? That's actually your forward slash. So you want to use the one off your number pad. If you don't have a full number pad, then you're going to look at your keyboard, and it is with the question mark key. Okay? Look for that one. So we want that slash right there. That's your forward slash, right? Backslash, forward slash. We want the forward slash. So E4, divide that by E9. I'm going to hit my enter key. All right. So didn't give me exactly what I'm looking for, but it gave me a percentage. It's a decimal percentage. So roughly 58%. Ouch. 58% of my grand total goes to rent. All right. Now, what type of reference is this? I give that a double click. E4, E9, these are relative references. Now, I want to do that exact same thing, but for phone. And then I want to do it for credit card. And then I want to do it for food and so on. Well, I jump up, I grab that formula, I copy, Control C, I drop down a cell. Now I want to get 350 and divide that by 5,125. So I copy the previous one. I'm going to paste it in, Control V. Ooh, what's that? Pound div /0 exclamation mark. What went wrong? Well, I'm going to drop down to the next cell. I'm going to paste it in here. That's not working. What's going on? Well, remember, there's 2 different types of references. Here, we're using a relative reference. So it says, okay, from this spot, right, from F4, we're going to go 1 cell to the left. That's E4. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells down, and we're going to divide with E9. All right, good. That works. Roughly 58% for rent. So now I copied that down, and I got an error. Let's give that a double click. All right, what's going on here? So from this location, remember relative, from this location, we went 1 cell to the left. That's great. And then we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells down. Because the first one went 5 cells, right? So when we copied it down, it still went 5 cells. That's not right. What's this one doing? This one still went 5 cells down to E11. Okay, relative reference. From that location to this. Well, this time, we need it to go 1 cell to the left, but then always go to E9. That should not change. So this is where the absolute reference comes into play. I'm going to go back to my first formula, and I'm going to make a change to the E9 reference. I'm going to make it an absolute. So I'm going to put a $ before the column reference, E, and I'm going to put a $ before the row reference, 9. That makes E9, that cell, absolute. So I hit my enter key, still got my 58% there. I'm just going to copy that, Control C, and I'll paste it in. There we have it. There's my 100%. So we got roughly 58% for rent, roughly 6% for phone, 10% for credit card, 18% for food, and 6% for candy, with a grand total of 100%. Now, each of these formulas is now referencing E9. There it is, E9. It will always be E9. You copy that formula anywhere, doesn't matter where. I take that, I copy it over here somewhere. Let's not put it behind my head. Let's put it up there. I got a 0 because it's not doing much math for me, but it's still E9. Over 1 cell, hit E9. Over 1 cell, hit E9, and so on. So you got relative references, really just based on its position. It's going to move in a specific direction, so many cells. And you got absolute references that absolutely reference this cell. And remember the $signs. $E, $9. You got your absolute reference. So again, just like every time, practice. Try this out. Jump into your own version, create a percent column. Make sure you got all the other formulas in there because you're going to need those. And then create your percent and find out what percentage each bill is of your grand total. And remember, to streamline it, make the absolute reference. Copy paste. Before we got into creating calculations inside of Excel, I mentioned as long as you know what you want to do, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, as long as you understand the basics of the math, Excel does the rest for you. But there's something else that we need to be aware of, and this is going to take us back to our early days of math. We're going to talk a little bit about the order of operation, or essentially the order that your different arithmetic operators go through. What happens first? What if you got a more complex calculation? It's got some addition and multiplication in there. What takes place first? This is the order of operation. Now, I'm going to give you a little acronym, one that you may recall from your elementary days of school. Maybe not. Took me a little while to kind of dig that back up from my past. But I'm going to introduce you to it here and hopefully spark a little bit of thought that you had before. So open in front of you, I've got a completed exercise file. It's called Order of Operation -01. It's an Excel document, and it's a part of this lecture. You can download it right here. Now, it's a simple one, not much going on in here. I got an imaginary bill. It's got 3 items in it, $100 for the first one, $150 for the next, and $55 for the third item. We have a subtotal. I want to be able to get a sum of all those values. And then we got a total where I want to get the sum of the items plus the tax. Okay. So how do we go about completing this? Well, what if I hop into cell C6? And I'm just going to do some basic arithmetic. I'm going to do some addition here. So I'm going to say equals. We got that, right? I'm going to say this cell plus this cell plus this cell. So just C3 plus C4 plus C5. Hit my enter key. Then we got our $305 worth of those 3 items. Now I want to get the grand total, which includes the 8% tax. Well, all right. Well, it's another formula. So I'm instead of cell C8, I'm going to say this cell times this cell. So C6 times C7. What do you think? I'm going to hit my enter key here. Oh, wait a minute. $24.40. That's not the grand total. Well, I just got what's 8% of $305. Got that there? So $305, 8% of that is $24.40. Well, I want to get the grand total, so I want to say 305 plus the 24.40, right? So let's delete that one out. Now we can go about completing this one a couple different ways. I'm going to show you just one way here. You may have other ways that you want to accomplish this through. Whatever method, the important part is the order that the operators go through. What happens first, then what happens next? Take a look. So I'm going to jump back in here. I'm going to say equals calculation. I want to take this one. I want to multiply it by the 8%, but not just the 8%. I want to multiply it by 108%. So I'm going to say plus 1.0. So essentially we're going to take the 8% and add 1 or add 100% to it. So we'll end up with 108%. So I'm going to hit my enter key here. Ooh, what happened there? 2540. That doesn't sound right, right? We wanted that 305 plus the 2440 that we saw earlier, right? So what's happening here? I'm going to go to this formula. I'm going to go to my formulas tab, top of your screen. We're going to talk much more in depth about the formulas tab as we continue later into this course. But on the formulas tab, you have a section called formula auditing. And there's so many goodies in here. We're going to talk about a lot of these in the 102 and the 103 section of this course. But I'm going to introduce you to one of them here called evaluate formula. So I have cell C8, a formula cell currently selected. I'm going to go to evaluate formula, and this is going to allow us to evaluate this formula right here, which is C6 times C7 plus 1. It's going to allow us to evaluate a piece at a time and figure out what's going on. So I'm going to go to evaluate formula. This opens up my evaluate formula window. So in here, I have an evaluate button. And currently, you can see my formula here. C6 times C7 plus 1. All right. So it's going to evaluate C6. That's underlined, denoting that that's going to get evaluated first. So I'm going to hit evaluate. C6 evaluated to 305. Now it's going to evaluate C7. All right. C7 evaluated at 0.08. So now it's going to evaluate 305 times 8. That doesn't sound right. We want to evaluate this portion right here first before it does the multiplication. All right. So if I keep going here, I evaluate, it finds the 2440, which was that leftover, which was the 8% of the 305, right? And then it's going to evaluate the plus 1, which gives us the 2540. That's not right. So get back here. I'm going to say evaluate, evaluate. I don't want to evaluate that next. I need to evaluate the 0.08 plus 1. Give me the 1.08 or the 108%. And then multiply that by the 305. So here's where the order of operation comes into play. So I'm going to write something here on my screen. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So here's an acronym for you. Now here, this is what I was taught going through grammar school, right? And it stuck with me somewhat. It's an acronym, and it stands for the order of operation. It's parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, add, subtract. So this is the order that your mathematical operators will go through, the precedence that they take. Parentheses happens first, then your exponents, then your multiplication, division, and then your add and subtract. Now, in some regions, and this was brought to my attention, I was teaching Excel one day, and somebody in my class was, I can't remember where they were from, weren't originally native North Americans. They came from wherever, whatever other country, and they introduced me to another acronym, same thing, but they just called them something a little different. And I know multiple countries use this, but this was, and I gotta look. Let's see, it was BODMAS. So we got brackets, it was operators. Operators, am I saying that right? I gotta go back through my notes here. And then, orders, excuse me, orders, brackets, orders, then your division, multiplication, and your add and subtraction. So brackets was the same as being parentheses. Orders was the same as exponents. Then you had your multiplication, division, and then your add and subtraction. That's it right there. Same thing in the end, but it's just the order that the operators go through. So let's take that. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, add, subtract, and let's take it back to our formula. So if I look at my formula here, I'll just give this a double click. So currently, this right here, that's multiplication. That, in the order of operation, happens before addition. Well, I don't want that to happen. I want this to get evaluated first. C7 plus 1, take that 8, add the 1, give me the 108%, get that to happen first, and then multiply it by C6. So how do we change that? How do we get the addition to happen first? P, parentheses, please, right? So here, I'm going to wrap this inside of parentheses, get that to happen first. Whatever's inside the parentheses, that happens first, and then the multiplication happens. So now I can hit my enter key, and there's my $329.40. So it was the 305 plus the 2440 that the 8% gave us. So let's evaluate this formula again. With that cell selected, back to formulas, formula auditing or evaluate formula. So now it's going to evaluate the C6. I'll evaluate that. Great, got the 305. But now it's going to skip over the multiplication and get to the parentheses and evaluate that. C7 was 0.08 plus the 1, gave us the 1.08 or 108%. And now it's going to evaluate the multiplication and give us the 329.40. That's your order of operation. Very important. Again, as long as we understand what we want to have happen, Excel does the math for us. But we need to be aware of the order the operators go through. Just remember that. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, add, subtract. Try it out. Jump in there. You can download this file. It's called order of operation -01, and you can try it on your own. Right? Get a feel for it. Understand why Excel needs it done that way. And that's just math in general. It's not just Excel, right? Excel uses math, but the order of operation is universally within math. Try it out.